Good morning, makers, and welcome back to the studio for another edition of Saturday Morning Craft Along. I'm your host, Agnes, and I'm so happy that you're here live with us today to get really crafty with one of my favorite activities. We are going to be doing some needle felting and making these adorable little sweaters and other shapes that you can make out of any cookie cutters that you already have in the house. So this week we decided that since we just announced our brand new felting kit, that we're going to feature some of the things that are included. So look at this box. And of course you can't see the green because of our green screen problems. Just imagine some beautiful hues of green in here. So our deluxe felting kit is now available on our website, and you get 20 beautiful colors to play with and lots of wool to keep you busy all Christmas break long. So it is the first day of our holiday break, our weekend, I should say. And yeah, so lots of opportunity to now kind of settle in and get your craft supplies out and make some handmade gifts. So there's nothing more heartwarming than receiving something that someone's created with their own hands, because all of that love and energy, I think the recipient actually does feel it when they get something that, you know, you've thought about that person and you put the time in. So I want to hear about all the handmade gifts that you might be planning or have already made for this holiday season. So if you're live with us, please say hello in the chat. We want to see who's with us. I have lots of stuff going on today that I want to jump in and show you. But we also ask every week that you share your photos with us of what you made from our last show. And last week we did some weaving with a reindeer theme. And I was so impressed with the weaving that Jen did. Jen, you did phenomenal work. She just kept weaving all weekend long and made some beautiful items that we featured on our Instagram. So if you didn't catch that, scroll back and find Jen's beautiful, adorable weavings. So congratulations, Jen. You are a winner this week. But don't worry, guys, if you are viewing live or if you're viewing after and you send in your photos, you're going to get entered for a chance to win a prize this week. Awesome. So let's jump over to our view and let's see who is signing in with us. All right, Sam, welcome back, Sam. I know we just dropped off a little kit for Sam yesterday for our prize winner from last week. So Sam's got our one of our molds. I think we've given you, Sam, the mitten mold, which is one we can also show you what we created. We're going to focus on the sweater because it's so adorable. There's so many ways you can decorate a sweater. So I've got a lot of goodies to show you guys today. First of all, yes, we have all of our fibers in beautiful colors, but we also have a special felting pad that we just invented. So we had some wool blankets, and then we decided that we were going to start making these eco-friendly felting pads, because if you just have our starter kit, what it comes with is just a regular sponge. You can use any type of like soft foam. Sponges work great to felt on because you need something to stop your needle from hitting your work surface. And so we've decided, we've seen other felters use this, so we thought we could make our own. And it's a sack that's made out of like wool material, and it's filled with rice. So the rice, it can just kind of move around, and it doesn't get like used up the way that like a sponge would, because after a while from poking the sponge, it does start to lose its firmness. So it does kind of get worn out, and you do have to replace it. But I think these rice sacks are fantastic, and they're going to last you a long time. So that's an option on our website, and also comes in the deluxe kit. But you could also try making your own. So we also have included some needles. Of course, we're using 2 different size needles today. So the size that's marked in blue is our coarse needle, and that's a 38 twist or a spiral. So if you look closely at it, you can tell the shape of it is actually different than the one next to it. So the silver needle, or the unmarked needle, is our finer needle, which is a size 40 triangle. So if you're curious about the sizes we're using, those are the ones we have. Of course, there's many types of needles available. Like, I think there's over like about a dozen different types. We only carry the 2 most common just to get you started. But just so you know, if you're shopping around and you see other sizes, it just means that they are for like different quality of like Some are for finer work and some are for coarse work. So they always have little descriptions telling you what they're for. Yeah, and of course I have my collection of cookie cutters. Now we do have our custom ones that we like to 3D print. So our heart comes in the starter kit. The mitten is a new one. Love the mitten. The sweater. And of course we have our cat ear. Yes, here's our cat ear that we featured on the show before. It's great for making wearable ears. So that's one of our samples we made as our last minute Halloween costume. So this is also available on our site if you guys want to get crafty and make some costumes. Not just for Halloween. It's fun to dress up anytime. I recommend, if you never felted, start with the heart because it's a symmetrical shape. It's nice and open, and it's just the best one to start with. But once you've graduated from that, you could move on to the mitten. And then I would say our sweater is probably like a more intermediate level just because it's got thinner areas. So if you're looking at cookie cutters that you already have at home, try to find ones that have like simple shapes, not too many like skinny areas, if that makes sense, because it's going to be more difficult to get your needle in there. So I think any of the ones I have here, like on display, should be pretty okay for, starting out. But if you have a bunch of experience, you could try doing more complex shapes. I also like to layer shapes. So look at what you have and see how you can combine your shapes together. So I decided I wanted to make a peace dove. And so I had a bird cookie cutter and I had this leaf shape and I thought that looks like a wing and it's about the right size. So I ended up felting both of these and combining them to make this little dove. And then I ended up making this out of pipe cleaners and some sequins that I had. So I cheated a little bit and I used some hot glue on it. But you could definitely make that out of felt as well. Yeah, so just look at what you have. And I'm sure there's lots and lots of possibilities of the types of ornaments that you can make. So before we get started, I just wanted to show off my samples of sheep's wool because I like to talk about where this material comes from. And of course it comes from sheep. So when it comes off the sheep, it's usually quite dirty. And so this sample here is, you can see how it's kind of yellow and brown. It's not been washed. It's come straight off the sheep and it still has that sheepy smell to it. But when it comes off the sheep, they have to process it before it gets to the end consumer. So after it's washed, it gets nice and clean. You can see kind of this comparison. They wash all the dirt out and it's still got these little crimpy locks in it. So they actually end up combing out all the fibers and they use brushes similar to these. Now these are just pet brushes, but you can pick these up at the dollar store and I'll show you how you can use these for blending. But they use these special combs and obviously big industrial machines to make the process faster. But essentially, they just use it and they brush the hairs so they all lay in the same direction. That way, when you end up going to the store and picking up your finished carded roving, it's called carded, like C-A-R-D, it ends up being nice and straight and fluffy and clean and ready to go. So all of the hard work's been done when you go and buy it. Of course, you can, if you know someone with a sheep and want to try processing it right from, sheep to shoulder, I would encourage you if you have the opportunity. So this roving is ready to go, ready to felt. And of course, the white, it comes white, usually white from the sheep, but it can come in different colors. So sheep also come in brown. So I have a little sample of brown. And some sheep come more gray. So you can get like different varieties of the natural wool. But we have a nice box full of all sorts of dyed colors. So you don't have to worry about all the hard work of dyeing. We just want to get straight into the fun. All right, let's jump into it. We're going to start with, like I said, I'm going to do the heart. I'm going to do the mitten. I'm going to do the sweater. And I had an idea that since I do a Harry Potter themed Christmas tree every year, the sweater made me think of, I think it was the first book where Harry gets the sweater from the Weasleys with his initial on it. So we could try doing, I've got this like beautiful kind of maroon colored felt or wool, and we could try making Harry's sweater that he gets gifted for his first Christmas at Hogwarts. And we're going to try to do some embellishments with maybe some embroidery thread. I'll show you different ways that you can like add some extra special details. Whenever you're working with your wool, you want to just pull small sections off. So if you're holding your hands too close together like I am now, and I'm pulling really hard on this wool, it's not breaking off. So I want to have my hands further apart. Okay, and then it'll just break off naturally. This is actually called the staple length of your sheep's hair. So it's like the natural length of the hair of the sheep. And so if you're curious about the vocabulary, staple length is another word for you to learn. So I like to just break off little chunks and then just kind of place them into my form. And you're just taking little bits at a time. It's really easy to overfill your mold because especially if you're using a cookie cutter. And I'll show you the difference. Cookie cutters are usually quite tall. And you can see the difference between our mold and a cookie cutter. They're about 3 times taller. So this has been printed at 1 centimeter tall so that you don't overfill your mold. So if you're using just like a regular cookie cutter, be extra careful to not add too much. Okay, because it'll end up being too thick and also too hard to work with. Okay. If anyone else is viewing live with us, please say hello in the chat. We'd love to see who's with us this morning. Or maybe everyone's taking the opportunity to snooze in extra long today. Maybe you're catching it over breakfast a little later when you wake up. So I've laid in my first layer of wool, and so I can't see my pad underneath, and it's like kind of just enough that I can still see what's happening with my shape here. It doesn't actually matter which needle you start with, but the blue one is the faster working needle. Because our shape is so thin, both needles will work just fine. So it really is a personal preference. But I'll just use the blue just to see how fast it does work. You could always try both and see which one you like better. It's just a more aggressive needle. And now I'm just starting to poke the fibers, being careful not to hit the edge of the mold. And you'll start to hear like a little crunching sound. So I'm only, my needle's only going in just past the surface of my felting pad. You don't need to stab it very deep, okay? If you stab it really deep, there's a chance that it might go too deep and hit your table and break. So we're really just trying to get through the layer of wool. You can see how the fibers are all getting kind of packed down. And what's happening is the little barbs that are on your needle are pushing the wool together and causing them to like lock together. And I like to use the word compact. So that's another terminology for you. We're compacting that wool and we're getting all of the air to get pushed out. Okay. So once I've kind of compacted my first layer of wool, we're going to keep adding more as we go. But I like to always flip it over. Anytime I'm like kind of done one section, I'll go ahead and flip it. So I'm going to remove my mold. There's my like very rough sweater. You can see that it's stuck to the pad. So if I pull it up, you can see the little fibers are like trying to get stuck to the wool. So that's totally normal. That's totally going to happen. And so I'll just peel it up. And you can see how like very, very thin this is. There's not enough material here. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it, put it back into my mold, and I'm going to add more fiber. Again, we're just going to take little sections and lay them in. If you're curious about how much wool to use, I ended up weighing my sweaters once I was done, and they were all pretty consistent in weight. I ended up using 3 to 3.5 ounces of wool. Sorry, not ounces, grams. Very small amount. Ounces would be a lot. Yeah, so I ended up using about, 3 grams. So if you have our deluxe kit, it comes with a 10 grams. So you get about 3 sweaters out of one color. Just adding another layer and poking it down the same way that I did before. So we're just building up the thickness of our shape now. You're going to start to get into like a rhythm, and you're going to start to like feel your heart rate drop, relax. You're going to get into the flow. Put a little music on, a little Christmas music. It's such a great holiday activity, especially one to do with your family, because we're all stuck at home together, right? And I just find it's great for a lot of different ages. And it's a great stress reliever. It's been a stressful year, so I think we all deserve a chance to have some crafty time and do something that makes adorable things, but is also really fun just to do. Doesn't make a mess. Very eco-friendly because you don't really have any waste at the end of it. You can always reuse your wool, even if like the project you made doesn't turn out great. You can always put more wool and fix any problems. Cover up colors that you don't like. All right, so as I've been chatting, I've been like pushing my wool all down, getting more compacted. I'm gonna do another lift. And at this point, I really want to inspect it for thin spots. So feel it with your fingers, hold it up to the light, see if there's any like light shining through. That it will tell you which areas need more wool added. Oh, good morning, Anna. Are you going to be felting with us today? Okay, so don't remember which side I was poking, but that's okay. I will pick a side, put it back in, and then I think I'm going to add one more layer. So if you do have a scale and you want to plan this out, I do recommend, just pre-measuring your wool, and that way you know that you're using like a good amount. So like I said, 3 to 3.5 ounces per sweater is good. Not sure about the mittens. I could probably weigh my mitten, let you know. I find with the sweater, you have to concentrate more on where the neck is to make sure you're adding enough material there. Because when you take the mold away, it might not show up as well. Mm. So anyone watching live, have you been making any gifts? And if so, please tell me about it. I want to hear what you've been working on. Or maybe you haven't had any time and you're planning on making some gifts. Let me know your ideas. I'd love to hear what people are getting up to. Or if you have any plans for the break. Anything you're excited about? Excellent. Okay. So at some point, you're going to not need your mold anymore. And it's really going to be up to you to decide when you feel like it's felted enough to take away the mold. Because so far, we've just been doing like up and down vertical stabs with the needle. And once we take the mold away, now we're free to do some sideways stabbing. So we're going to be holding our needle like flat, so horizontal, and poking it sideways. So just a word of warning, this is most likely where you're going to poke yourself, like you're going to potentially injure yourself. But don't worry, we've got our Band-Aids handy for that. Always have a Band-Aid when you're felting. And it's not great to watch TV. So if you are felting live with us, make sure your eyes are on your work because you always have to see where your needle is and keep your hands kind of away. But yeah, so once you're ready to start refining those edges, you can see it kind of looks like a blobby sweater, not very refined. You can see the difference between this one and this one. It still needs some work. Probably going to take you about a half an hour, 45 minutes to make a shape, depending on how complex it is. I ended up timing myself for some of the sweaters, and the fastest I could make a sweater was about 20 minutes. And I'm an experienced felter, and I have some tools that will help me out. So I have like some multi-tools that you guys can get online. These are Clover products. So this one holds 5 needles, makes it felt a lot faster. It's great for flat stuff like the cookie cutter shapes, but you can also get this nice one that holds 3 needles. And this is great for when you want to do more like 3D objects. So I recommend these. They're great tools, and they're made by a company called Clover. But when you're making small objects and you're just learning, it's great to just use one needle. So when you're doing your sideways stabbing, what's happening is you're just pushing the fibers in and you're trying to make it look more smooth and more compacted. And this is where you really get to finesse the final shape of your object. And we're just trying to tame all the fluffies. So if you're nervous about poking yourself, what you can also do is take a couple straight pins, like the ones with the little heads, and park them onto your shape. And that way you don't have to hold on to, like you don't have to have your fingers so close when you're poking. So as you go along, just make sure you're alternating your up and down and your side to side stabbing motions as you work your way around. And you're going to see the fibers start to shift and move like pretty quickly. Don't forget that we need to flip it as well. So we're trying to work the object from all directions. And everything's just kind of getting pushed more to the center. I just like the sound it makes. I know you guys you can't hear it on camera, but if you're doing this at home and you hear that like gentle crunch, I find it very soothing. Awesome. Oh, Anna and the Carters are going to make some felted ornaments. Excellent. Can't wait to see them on your tree. So yeah, make sure you flip it over and you just focus in on those areas like under the arms or anywhere like it kind of changes shape, changes direction. You want to refine those shapes, refine those edges. Oh, a Christmas star. Lovely idea. Yeah, I was also thinking about making a star. Nice. Is it going to be so big it's going to go on the top, or it's just going to be like a regular ornament size? Okay. So this sweater needs a little bit more work. You can see it's pretty rough. I made this one just before the show started. It's a little further along. You could see the shape is getting a little more refined. And I would say this one is probably okay to start decorating with other things. So I've busted out my sequins. I've got like these Christmas themed ones with snowflakes I thought would look really cute on my sweater. We're going for that ugly sweater theme. I don't think they're ugly. I think they're so cute. But, you know, that's kind of popular theme right now is to make these adorable sweaters. And let's see, pick out a few good ones here. So yeah, maybe that's good enough for now. And you're gonna need some regular sewing thread. So if you wanna sew on some sequins, maybe actually I should show you guys how you can just use wool to create a design. So that's what I did for these guys here. I made a little reindeer and a snowman, and I just used felt for these. So before I go with the embellishments, maybe I'll show you guys how to stick to the same material. So I need a suggestion for what I should add to this, actually. If anyone wants to give me a little suggestion for something to needle felt on the sweater, please post it in the chat and we'll do that. I'm going to weigh my mittens so you guys know how much wool I used. Get my scale out. Okay, the mitten is 2.2 grams. So a pair of mittens will be 4.1. Okay. So yeah, they were pretty consistent in size. About 2 grams per mitten if you're doing the mitten at home. And then of course a little bit of that weight is the string, but I don't really count it. So light. Rudolph sweater. We have a Rudolph already. Yeah. So I need a new suggestion. Maybe I'll do a little star. Actually, that's a great shape because it's easy. So nice simple one. I'll do and a suggestion of a star. I'm going to grab some of my really pretty yellow. And I'm just going to pull out a little bit of the fiber. So when you're doing these surface details, you just need a tiny bit. pull it a little bit. And you want to just kind of roughly get it into the shape that you need it. So for a star, I would probably start out just like as this like blob. And then I'm going to start to try to refine it right on top of the sweater. It's almost like, I don't know what to compare this to because it's not really like painting. You're really sculpting is what you're doing. So I'm going to just start to poke the fiber down like really, really gently, really, really softly. And then maybe just start to poke the sides in to create those like 5 points. I'm poking where like the divots of the star would be. Maybe one here. This is not working out great. Okay, plan B is we're gonna draw out the points all one at a time. So I'm actually gonna draw out my wool like a little snaky sausage thing. So just kind of twist it in your fingers, make it into like a little long piece, and then place it down where you want it, and then just start poking it in. Yeah, I think this is gonna make the shape a lot easier. And then once it's kind of attached to your piece, try pulling it off and then poking that back in. I'm gonna work at one point at a time here. I'm gonna continue with this long piece I have. Get it anchored down. Poke down as much as you need, and then put your finger on it, kind of pull it till it breaks, and then put that wool like back on top, back in the area that you want it, and poke it all in. I've got 2 points of my star done. Very, very roughly. I've got just a little bit of wool left. I'm going to grab some more. And make another little snaky bit. So just rub it between your hands. Okay, and then again, anchor it to the center. Felt it down a bit. Put your finger on it and then pull. Flip that extra back on top of itself. Hey, it's starting to look like a star. There we go. 3 points done. And I'll keep going here. I love the yellow and the blue together. They are a great combo. Okay, last point on my star. Flip that back over. So I am using my silver needle. It's the finer one, and it's best for surface detailing because the barbs are not as aggressive. Okay, so just blend in the rest, and now look for spots, obviously, that don't look good to you. You can now start to finesse that shape and just start to poke down those fibers and get them to lay down where you want them. If you're not happy with how it's looking at this point, you could probably still kind of rip it off because it's like, you know, it's getting pretty stuck to my mat here. See how the fibers have traveled all the way through the sweater? I had to pull pretty hard to get that off. So all of the yellow has now been kind of pushed to the back. This is a great example to show you how the fibers like interact when you're poking them. So it's been pushed right through and it's at the back. So if this happens to you and you don't want to see that, if you want to cover it up, you can just take a little more of that same color you were using and lay it on top. And you're going to need to use your needle more sideways. So like just really gently poke it. If you poke it like you would usually up and down and straight through, what's going to happen is the blue fibers are going to end up on the front side, and it's like a never ending thing where you're trying to like fix it. So if you're just trying to cover like things on the back, so use your needle sideways and just really gently kind of poke it just enough to get it to stick, but not so deep that the fibers are getting pushed all the way to the front again. Okay, hope that makes sense, and I hope that helps you out. Okay, so my star is still looking like a little fuzzy. I would want to keep working it until it's until I'm happy with it. I'm a perfectionist, so I like spend a lot of time on these things. Remember, you can turn your object until it's like, so it's more comfortable for working. You can always add like more wool on top to cover things up. Yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. That technique worked pretty well. Awesome. Now, what I could do to further embellish this, I think now is the time that I want to go in, see what sequins I have, maybe some beads. I think beads are a great thing to add to your sweaters, your mittens, or maybe some embroidery thread. Yeah, we'll do some embroidery thread. So I picked out a couple colors here. Maybe I'll go with this nice bright red, so contrast well. Oh, we have a comment from Anna. Lucy might eat the star. That's probably guaranteed to happen. So for some reason, well, I know for sure my cat loves to eat wool. So if you have animals at home and they've gone after your wool creations, you'll know that it's like a trend. It's like probably all cats will want to eat your wool. So make sure you hang those ornaments a little higher on your tree, so that your cat can't reach it. Because yeah, I've definitely had some things destroyed from my cat. All right, we're going to do some embroidery thread. So whenever I work with embroidery thread, I like to use at least an arm's length. Cut it off and get it onto a needle that has a large eye. So it needs to be large enough to get the string through. And because embroidery thread is thicker than regular thread, it's important that you have the right size needle. Nothing worse than struggling to get the thread onto your needle. So you need to have it go through the needle, and you have a little tail hanging off, like so, like about like the length of your hand. But then on the other end of the string, you have to tie your knot. So we're using our thread like a single strand. When we do our stitches, they're not being doubled. They're just going to be single. All right, so whenever I start to sew, I like to anchor it to the back. And what are we going to do? Something over here. You could try just pushing it through and seeing if the knot catches. No, so it's not catching for me because this sweater is still very kind of fluffy. So to do an anchor stitch, you can just kind of do a stitch into the back, in and out of the area that you want to start. But on the back side, pull the string till you have a little tail. Okay, and then you can take that tail and tie it to the other string, okay? So just like a simple knot, and then do it twice so that it doesn't pop off. Okay, and then I'll trim that tail so it doesn't show. Now it's nice and anchored to my work, and I can now pass my needle back to the front side and start to do my stitching work. I actually find embroidery to be really, really satisfying to do on the felted objects. There's just something about, like, I don't know, the feeling of it. The way the stitches go through. I just really enjoy it. So I think I'm gonna do like little lines. So it's like little beams of light for my star all the way around. So I'm just gonna pass my needle front to back, back to front, lay down my design. And of course, trying to not get it caught. If you're having trouble where you're having trouble keeping the needle on your thread, you could probably put just like a tiny bit of tape. But really the secret is to pinch right on the end of the needle where the thread kind of exits. Keep your hands pinching it as you work so it doesn't slide off. At this point, I like to consider it like you're drawing with thread. I'm just going to work my way around making these little stitches. There you go. Really like this color. And if it's not working out for you, you can always undo your stitches. Very easy to pull out. There you go. So, a nice quick way to add some interest. And maybe at some point I might want to try adding beads or sequins. If you guys have ideas, I'd love to hear them. I think the more detail you add to your sweater, like the more impressive it's going to look. Whoops. All right. Made it all the way around. I still have quite a bit of thread here. I'm glad you're enjoying the stitching, Carissa. Okay, so I still have a bit of thread. So what I could do is maybe go and add some details around the neck or the wrists. And instead of cutting it off, I'll show you a way you can jump around. I'm gonna get my thread back on here. Okay. So let's say you want to move over to another area, but you don't want the stitches to show on the front. So let's say I want to go down to the wrist. You could actually take your needle and you can just kind of like put it in. So I'm just kind of making it almost on just like on the inside of the sweater. I've just passed my needle all the way through. I'm going to pop it out over here. So the thread is just under the surface of the felt. Cool. So now I'm over here and I can start stitching again. Ooh, Anna's on the star and she's going to sew the sequins on each point and the middle. Very nice. Very nice. Good plan. Okay. And if you know like different embroidery stitches, this is a great opportunity to do that. Maybe I'll do, I don't know if I could do like a little blanket stitch around the edge here. Would look cute. Oh yeah, that's what I ended up doing on the mittens, was I did a little blanket stitch on the edge. There we go. If you want to learn blanket stitch, there's lots of tutorials online. Cool. We'll go back and do a little straight line across. Yeah, just have fun with it. See what you can come up with. Cool. So to end it, we're going to do it very similar to how we started. Oops. Okay, so let's say you're getting close to the end of your thread. I still have quite a bit. I could keep going, but I want to show you guys how to end it. So on the back side, just find a spot wherever your thread is. You just want to make a tiny little stitch. Pull it till you have that loop. You should have a loop here. And then you just pass your needle through the loop and pull tight. And that should be enough to anchor it. If you do want to hide your tail, you can also do that thing where we put the needle through about 1/2 inch to 1 inch and hide the tail inside the felt. It kind of keeps it clean looking. You can snip it. And if you want to hide all that stitching, we can just take more felt or more wool and disguise it and just kind of keep felting right on top, but really, really gently so that the fibers don't end up pushing through all the way. So this is another reason why I love felting, is because it's so easy to cover up like things that you don't want to see. Just keep adding more. And I'm just poking super gently, not all the way through, just tacking it down is my goal. Cool. Let me know if you guys want to see any of the other shapes that I have out, because we do have some time left on the show, but I wanted to also show you how to make these cute little acorns as well. So these are just like little balls, which is a simple shape. It's like the first shape that we teach in our more advanced class. There you go. I've kind of covered up all those stitching. I would cover that up as well, because it's nice to have it finished on both sides. I'm probably going to finish this up a little later. Yeah, you could also go with more felt and just keep adding in different spots. I really like the way this one turned out, that design. Very expressive. If you want to add a hanger, you can do that with some embroidery thread. So you would just add like a loop of string. You could tie it in. If we have some time, maybe I'll show you at the end. But I'm going to show you guys how to make us a ball, okay? And I've been collecting these little acorn tops. Anna's got the acorns, lovely. Probably from my other sister, Kasha. She does a lot of felting. And actually, she gifted me these ones like the first year that I taught her how to felt. So thanks, Kasha, for these acorns. They've been great samples. So if you have any oak trees in your neighborhood, you can take a walk and see if there's any on the ground still. Might be slim pickings. Best time of year is obviously fall, because you got to get them before the squirrels do. But oftentimes you can find them without the nut in it. You can find just the caps on their own. And what you'll need to do is drill a little hole into it. So these have been already drilled out. A small drill bit will work. And then take a bit of thread and get it onto your needle. Oh, I think I lost my needle. Put it down somewhere. There it is. Oh, I've already got some on, so we'll just use this. So if you take a little bit of thread on your needle and your acorn top and you pass it through one of the holes. Okay. Oh, how did I do this? Oh, here's what we'll do. Okay, sorry guys. Take your thread, have it doubled up, okay, like that, and then take the side that's like not the tail ends, but like the curvy end, put that through. I think this is gonna work. Okay, and then put it through the hole. Okay, yeah, and now you have the loop side on the side that you want and the tail side on the inside, and this is where you'll put your knot. Make a loop, put it through, give it a tug. Okay, test to see if your knot's big enough. Make sure you can pull on it quite hard, it doesn't pop out. You might need to double your knots if your hole's too big. You could also, trim up your tails, and then ready to add the ball. But first I gotta show you how to make the ball. So just grab a bit of fiber. Use some nice green. Pull off some. I'm not using too much. You can always add more. Okay, now to make a ball, I like to start with my wool kind of like a rectangle. So almost like this little kind of sausagey thing. Just really, really fluffy still. And put it onto your felting pad. And then you're going to start at the bottom and we're going to roll it in this direction. So the goal here is to push out as much air as possible. So I'm pinching and I'm rolling up, away from you, essentially. Okay. So it's important that you keep pinching it as you roll it because otherwise it's just going to pop open again like that. So keep pinching and rolling and pushing out all the air. I'm pushing against my work surface. All right. Since this is such a small amount of wool, what I'll do is take one of my pins or maybe two of your pins, and that'll help kind of keep it secure until you can go get in there with your needle. Ooh, Anna says the acorns are in my fairy garden. That's a great place for acorns to live. They're so whimsical, right? When they're made from wool. Okay, so now you're just going to start stabbing that little ball that you made and keep your needle moving in all directions. Okay, everything's getting pushed to the center. Keep your fingers out of the way. Once you've got it tacked down on like the sides that you have access to, we're going to end up flipping it and working the other sides as well. Okay, tacked it. So now I'm going to undo it, and it's still really fluffy, so I'll flip it over, tack it down, keep working it. Keep your needle moving until it starts to look like a ball. And I would say rotate your work. Maybe just have one pin so that you can pivot it easier. And this is a quick little one. You should be able to make this, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes at most. Depends on how experienced you are with felting. I'm picking up some of the fibers that are on my pad. They're ending up in my work. So if that's happening to you, just go and pick out all the little fluffy bits so they don't end up contaminating your work. You will have all these little bits, but you can felt with them too. You can make tiny balls. You can felt those into a design or just put it on the inside of your next object. Oh yeah, keep rotating your ball. Another thing you can do is just pinch it between two fingers instead of using the pin, and just keep it rotating. And you're gonna feel for how squishy it is. We're gonna go for like a well done, not too squishy, very compacted felted ball. Okay. Just keep it moving, keep it going. That's probably, I would say, like a medium well done. I would personally keep going with it to do a little firmer. And also it will help shrink down the size so it fits the cap better. Yeah, this is one I did a little while ago. And it's a lot firmer than this guy here. So it's a better fit for my acorn. And where's that one I did? Oh, here we go. So to attach the ball to the acorn top, we're just going to use hot glue or any craft glue. White glue probably isn't the best, so I would suggest hot glue for this. So just squeeze a little bit into the cap and then pop your ball right in, and then you'll have like an adorable little acorn. These make great gift toppers. So if you're giving away gifts, it's always nice to make a little thing to add to the top, or just little ornaments out into your fairy gardens. I love using these acorn tops. So look around and see what you have, and see if there's ways that you can combine a felted shape into something that you like find in nature, or something you already have, other craft supplies. Yeah, there's lots of ways you can use, you can combine things. So I hope that was helpful to you guys. What else can I show you? I didn't show you how to do any stitching with sequins. So maybe I'll show you how I like to add sequins. So you can also add buttons, but sequins usually have like just one hole in them. So you might be curious as to how best to attach sequins to an object. And maybe I will add it to the other side of my sweater just for demonstration purposes. For this, I'm going to use some regular sewing thread, my sewing box, and I think I'll use white. match the color. And we're going to need a regular sewing needle. Do I have one? Yes, I do. So first of all, make sure that your needle is going to be able to fit through the little hole. So do a test fit and make sure it can pass through. If your needle's too big, it won't work. Then get your thread out and do your arm's length minimum. Sometimes if I'm doing a lot of stitching, you can go ahead and do your full wingspan. So both arms stretched out because we're going to be doubling it up and putting it through the needle. So it's always tricky. I got it on the first go. Double your thread. And this is the same process you would use for adding beads. So we'll see if we can add some beads in at the same time. Okay. I'm going to anchor it down always to start. So I'm going to add one about here. I'm going to do a little stitch in and out of the felt. Pull it until it's almost at the end, and then you can split open that loop. Put your needle through the loop. And I'm getting tangled. And go ahead and pull it so it's anchored nice and secure, and trim up the tail. Then I'm going to place my sequin on, and I'm going to pass it through the hole, and I'm pushing my needle all the way to the back. And I'm going to pull all of the thread up. Okay, and now I'm going to pop my needle out from the back side, and I'm just going to pop it out on the outside of the snowflake. So I'm going to come out like in between like the arms of the snowflake, just as close to the center as you can get it. And then I'm going to go back to the middle hole. So we're just doing a bunch of stitches to secure the snowflake, and we're kind of try to go into a pattern here. So I'm just going little like straight stitches from the outside, like just over here to over here. That makes sense. And it's really easy for the thread to like get caught on your object. So you do have to have a little bit of patience with this. I'm going to pop it up. You guys can see that. Hard to see you today on the camera. There we go. Just keep your stitches like as close to the sequin as you can get it. And then back to the middle. Okay, and so for my snowflake, there's like 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 6. I'm going to do 6 stitches all the way around. Okay, we are getting close to the end of our show. So not sure how many people were watching live this morning, but if there's anyone still watching, you haven't said hello, this is your last chance to get entered into the draw. And then Chris is going to tell us who our winner is today. All right, I've got my snowflake nice and secure. My thread is back at the back, and I think I'm going to add some beads. So I'm going to pop up like somewhere else on my sweater. Like I'm going to pop up over here. And I've got this nice collection of little seed beads. I'm going to take one, and I'm just going to pop it onto my needle like so. And I'll pull it all the way up. And then you're going to insert your needle like essentially exactly where you came out, like so just right next to the bead, and then pull it down. So that's all you need to do to add a bead, and then you could add more beads. So these are going to look like little tiny snowflakes. Take another bead, add it on, pull the needle all the way through, and then put my needle back down right next to the thread that's already coming up. So it makes a little loop to hold the bead on. I really like adding beads. They're fun. They're shiny. Add a little bit of whimsy. Yeah. Just make sure your needle's going to fit through the bead before you get going on it. Cool. Awesome. And okay, once you've decided that you've ended, you like to end it. Yes, it is a double-sided sweater. It could be a double ornament. Oh, we've made 2 hearts and a Christmas tree. You guys have been busy. Excellent. Who is we are here? Jance Vids. Please tell us your name so we know who you are. We don't know your handle, sorry. Okay, so I want to end it, so I'll make sure my thread is at the back. So this is my back for my sample today. You can see all my messy stitching. And you just make a little scoop. Pull the tail till you have till you have a loop of thread, and then put your needle through the loop and pull. I don't think it made a knot, so I'll go through again. There we go. Make sure it makes a knot. So watch it when you're pulling it, and you can snip it off. Okay, and then you can always do some more felting to hide your stitching, like we showed you before. Yeah, and everything's nice and secure. It's not going to fall off. I would probably add a hanger over here, maybe with some thread. Oh, hello, Michaela. Welcome to the show. Excellent. Okay. Thanks for coming out. Okay, I'm gonna add a hanger. Yeah, so I'm gonna add it on like either side of my little neck here on my sweater. So I'm gonna pretend like this is the front. Make a little scoop. I'm gonna have to tie it to itself here. Okay, once and tie it twice for good security. Okay, now it's anchored. So now I'm going to decide how big my hanger is going to be. So I think about that long is probably okay, is good. And then with the rest of my thread, I'm going to go to the other side of the neck and do another little scoop. Okay, and then take my needle right off. Okay, and then just tie this end to the other side of the string. So that's like the easiest way to add a little hanger, and tie it twice. Woohoo! There we go. It's nice and secure. It's not going to pop off. I've got tails to hide. So what I would do is add a little more wool on top. Try to hide that. And I would felt that right in to disguise it. This sample ended up looking really messy because I did do the double side. So I'm going to spend some time fixing it up. But there you go. There's an easy way to add a hanger. I think I've covered everything. Was there anything anybody wanted to see before we sign off for today? Amazing. Okay, so I think we've got all of our names. Yeah, and Carissa, you're ready to do the draw. Go for it. We're going to see who our winner is today. Maybe I'll show you guys close-ups of other things I've made. The little guy. This is more of a 3D shape, so once you get really good at doing cookie cutter shapes, you can start to do 3D things. I love this little polar bear. Here's a very advanced one. It's my Christmas elf. Lots of shapes going on in this one. Amazing. All right. If anybody watches the Schitt's Creek, you'll recognize this sweater. One of the characters on Schitt's Creek. I'm very excited about this. I'm going to be making more of these. Very happy. So Got lots. Hearts are great ones to make. I like to add brooch pins to the hearts so you can wear them. What else do I get? Oh, this one's a fun one. If you have like I think it would be really cute to do the gingerbread man or gingerbread person and start to do like more details on the inside, kind of like I did with the bear. Yes, that is a David Rose sweater. You got it. So cute. I'm definitely gonna make more of these guys. They were really fun to do. And yeah, the mittens make an adorable gift as well. And you can just hang it on the tree, like right on the mitten strings. Love this one. This one I haven't finished up the back yet, so I would add more wool to cover up stitching. Cool. Awesome. All right, guys, I want to hear what you're going to be up to the holiday break. If you're going to be doing crafting, please send me pictures. I always love to get them. Brightens up my day. And whenever you're ready, Carissa, we can announce our winner for today's draw. You guys have so many sweaters? Tell me about your sweaters. Like ugly sweaters? Oh, you did the draw. Oh, sorry, I missed that. Oh, our winner's Michaela. Great. Awesome. Congratulations, Michaela. We will be getting in touch with you. I believe we have your contact, and yeah, we'll get you a prize for this week to help you with doing more felting. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the show today, and I hope you enjoy your felting. Please be safe. Watch those sharp needles. Please, yeah, again, share your photos with us. Here's our handle. Here we go. Tag us online or just submit to our website. There is a link in the description where you can just submit on our website. But yes, that's all the time we have for today. So thanks again for being with us, and I hope you guys have a very safe and happy holiday season. I know it's going to be a little different than normally, but hopefully you guys can find ways to make some new traditions and spend just a little more quality time at home. And hopefully that involves a lot of crafting. All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Happy holidays, and we'll see you again next week for some more craft time.